All right, so this is going to be a long lesson, right? This is a complete project. I'm going to be walking you through how you want to approach shading each of these forms, each of these shapes in order to create three-dimensional form, right? A lot of you guys are probably thinking you want to learn how to draw realistically. A big part of that is shading to get three-dimensional form in a way that's not going to look cartoonish, right? The number one thing when it comes to form, if you want something to look realistic or three-dimensional, right? No more outlines. None of your objects, none of your shapes in real life have outlines unless it is another drawing of a cartoon, right? If you look at my hand, I don't have outlines, but I do have shadows, I do have highlights, right? This pencil, no outlines, just shadows and highlights, okay? Only cartoons have those outlines, and once you add outlines to an image, to a shape, it immediately flattens it out and it becomes two-dimensional. Yes, it's going to stand out more, but we don't need that contrast. We can create contrast with value and form, okay? So let's start with making sure that we can establish our darkest value and our lightest value. So thankfully, if we leave it blank, if we leave an area blank, that is going to be our lightest value, okay? Our darkest value, however, needs to be established so that we know we have that range, right? And we know what our values need to sit between. I'm gonna, based on my reference, I'm gonna make my darkest value the background. So as you can see, I can get a really dark, like so. And basically that will tell me that everything else should be lighter than this. And visually, it just helps us determine whether or not we need to make things darker or not, okay? So step one, after drawing your shapes in the correct proportion, in the correct spot, is to establish your darkest value. For some of you guys, your background isn't going to be your darkest value. You might have shadows that will be darker. Just put that in somewhere, okay? And it'll trust me when I say it'll help you find all of your other values, right? Because most of you guys, when you're drawing, you're a little nervous and you don't want to mess up, so you will just have everything be too light, and then there's no contrast, right? To create a successful drawing with to create a successful drawing, you need to have contrast. You want your objects in the front here, the foreground, to stand out against the objects in the background or against each other. And you need to access that full range of values that you learned in the previous lesson, from dark all the way to white. All right. After you establish, you don't have to, like, just one area that's going to be dark, right? One area that's going to be black, right? And one area that's going to be light, this one here, based on the reference. You need to determine where your light source is. So I printed out my reference, but you can just look at your computer where you created the Google slide and saved your reference, right? Our light source, as in the origin of where the light is coming from, is this top left side. The way I can see that is because the light source is going to show us, the sides that are closest to the light source are always going to be your lightest. The sides that are furthest from your light source are always going to be your darkest. So this image is two-dimensional, so it's really hard to show you, but not only is the light coming from this top left, it's coming from like around here, so like not necessarily directly to the side of it, but a little bit behind some of the shapes as well, right? And that's why you have this medium here, you have this dark, right? You have a dark shape here, and then a medium shape here, and then we know it's at the top because this is light, okay? Same with this sphere. Notice all of them are kind of following that light. Closest part of the shape is going to be the lightest, closest part of the shape is going to be the lightest, closest part of the shape, lightest, right? Even right here, this top of this rectangular prism, okay? Still following that rule. So identify our light source. I'm going to draw a little arrow like this, lightly, because it is a guideline. to indicate that that is where our light source is at. And once you do all of those steps, you are ready to move on to shading our first shape.